A city resolution opposing transportation of oil and liquefied natural gas through communities in rail corridors is a symbolic and cumulative statement detailing the threat to health, safety, property, and the welfare of its citizens. The imminent and growing danger of climate change has been recognized by international scientific and governmental bodies, identifying the burning of fossil fuels as the main contributor. The increase in oil and natural gas production, a surge in transport of crude oil by rail, and the industry threat of transporting LNG gas by rail demands a directive from local governments to federal regulators. Communities within potential blast zones are at risk for derailments and the potential for explosions of volatile cargo, wildfire smoke inhalation, polluted drinking water, and toxic contamination of land and air.
The City of Eugene, Oregon has recently adopted a formal resolution to register its opposition to this hazardous transport. A coalition of environmental groups including 350 Eugene, Beyond Toxics, Sierra Club Mini Rivers Group, and the Eugene Raging Grannies work together to advocate for the passage of this resolution. We'd like to thank Mayor Lucy Vinnis along with the City Council for their leadership in passing Resolution 5181, a resolution opposing transportation of oil by rail. The resolution directs the Eugene City Manager to write letters to Oregon's Senators Wyden and Merkley and Congressman DeFazio requesting new legislation for railroads and oil shippers regarding their operations, to develop an environmental cleanup plan, to give notice of all future expansions, and to report oil transport volume and frequency. The resolution also directs the city manager to send that letter and a copy of Eugene's Resolution 5181 to Governor Kate Brown and to representatives in the Oregon State Legislature.
A lack of response at the federal level signifies that the railroads run at their own discretion. The cumulative effect of requests from many jurisdictions, municipalities, counties, and school districts located within rail corridor blast zones can send a clear directive. Local communities want regulation standards on rail safety now.
I think it is clearly the place of the council to comment on issues that affect our community health and well-being. Oil trains are dangerous, and a good example is what happened in Mosier, and the blast radius for an explosion from an oil train is half mile to a mile. And we actually had a Eugene spill here, and maybe that chief can come up and talk about the preparedness that we have and the ability to deal with them. My understanding is you can't do anything about it. You just let them burn. And all those toxins that go into the air, a lot of them disperse, but a lot of them stay locally. But there's also the spill aspects of it. And these trains are huge.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. The statement of that they are huge and we have to wait for them to burn is an accurate statement. We do have safety mechanisms in place that include additional foam units that support our operation. They are one locally and two that are about an hour's drive away for a total of 3, 4 if you include one near the airport. So we do have foam capabilities close by to assist, but the reality is those resources are put in place to confirm evacuation, to make sure everybody we can is safe and evacuated, and then there is a time period that we have to wait for it to burn.
Most rail corridors and fossil fuel industrial areas lie within lower socioeconomic communities that rarely have political influence. These industries often employ many local residents, make contributions to their schools and community organizations, and help to elect politicians sympathetic to the railroad and fossil fuel industries. Getting a local resolution or ordinance passed under these circumstances can be a tough sell. Opponents to stronger regulation standards may have a defeatist attitude, such as there are worse products being shipped by rail, or what's the use if it's just a symbolic effort, or this won't do any good. They have a right to their opinion. However, cumulative community testimony speaks volumes when the public responds to the increased potential for hazardous accidents. Persuasive arguments can strengthen the focus to adopt local resolutions that address all of these concerns.
You know, I've dealt with transportation for a long time, and this is a moral statement on the part of the city. I think there are a lot of the residents are concerned, and particularly in my ward and in Chris's ward, and in fact, all of the wards that we have, you know, train travel coming through, which is the entire city, about the potential dangers of, you know, oil spills, other hazardous chemicals, other hazardous things. No, this is a resolution. It has no weight in power of law, but it does send a message to our federal elected officials and representatives that the city goes on record as having some significant concerns around what does come through our city via rail. And no, we Union Pacific is almost nearly the power of God, okay? And that's the same for the other four class 1 railroads in this country moving freight. There's some necessities and some hazards to moving freight. There's no question about that. There's chemicals that are going to come through our communities and communities across the country. What I think this resolution does, it calls attention to the issues of what can happen to human beings and to our environment if the proper measures are not in place to protect our communities. And so if we can send that message to Merkley, Wyden, and DeFazio in an emphatic way from this body, that does resonate with them in terms of what they take before their colleagues in Congress, and it really helps in terms of shaping federal policy. So no, we don't make federal policy, but we have an impact, and we can shape federal policy through, statements like this. And this is what it is. It's a resolution. It does not have the power or weight of law, but it does say that yes, we are concerned. We are wanting our federal officials to take action, and we need to protect our environment and our community and our residents.
And Betty?
Okay, Greg said it very well, so I don't need to say, I agree with him, but we do have influence as a city. We have influence as individuals, but as a city council, we have more influence, and I think it's important for us to use it for a good cause. Thank you.
And I want to add to that I think what we do in Eugene matters. And it's not just symbolic, because it is the weight of city after city after city being concerned about safety that pushes this kind of legislation. So I think we should be proud of our community for people stepping up and asking us to do this work on their behalf, on behalf of safety. So any other comments needing in the queue? All in favor of the proposed resolution on the transport of oil? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Claire?
I vote yes.
6 in favor, opposed? 2.
With the manner. Yes.
Thank you all. It passes, and we are adjourned.
We have developed a template for local action that is available on the 350 Eugene website, along with the text of Eugene's Resolution 5181. The original proposal to Eugene's mayor and city council was a compilation of a half-dozen city and school district resolutions adopted in West Coast communities. Eugene's resolution was formulated by 9 volunteers and a 350 Eugene working group who opposed movement of oil by rail. Although the city of Eugene formulated and adopted their own verbiage in the final version based on Portland's resolution that passed in November 2015, important findings and statements from 350 Eugene documents were utilized as well.
Resolutions start with a fact, cause, or background brief to state the issues of concern and introduce what the resolution will address. This must be well researched and supported with fact-based evidence. It should be assumed that the readers are uninformed about the eminent issues of concern. Citing comments in the background bolsters authenticity. City staff, often at the discretion of the city manager, will decide whether to use its own findings or to advance the proposal being presented. Ideally, the resolution developed will address the public's concerns and then direct staff to follow up with correspondence to state legislators, governor, and neighboring communities within the rail corridor. Periodic follow-up with local leaders keeps the issue fresh and prevents it from falling off the radar.
The health and safety of people in schools, colleges, hospitals, businesses, and residential areas within and nearby the blast zone corridors are at risk. Advocating against the shipping of crude oil by rail becomes a sales endeavor. Support can be gained from businesses and other institutions located within the blast zone areas. You can create a letter that business owners will endorse and send the endorsements to city leaders along with relevant documentation. Visit neighborhoods within the 1 mile blast zone to distribute informational leaflets outlining the perils of crude by rail. Include endorsements and contact information for city councilors, county commissioners, and state legislatures to make it easy for residents to get involved. Give factual information about resolution proposals. Ask neighbors to become activists by inviting them to join in. Letters to the editor, phone calls, sit-down sessions, and bird dogging at town halls can be effective in gaining official and media support.
Regardless of whether a resolution gets adopted, build community awareness about what is being shipped on tracks within local neighborhoods. Facts about the method and the volume of hazardous materials rolling through a city can be alarming. It is easy for people to hibernate and carry on business as usual while fully expecting the health and safety they take for granted is being responsibly monitored by elected officials. Get sympathetic volunteers to run for elected positions in local city or school seats for a positive solution to gain recognition about these growing concerns. Adopting a resolution opposed to the transportation of crude by rail can be a long process. Depending on the urgency and view of your elected officials, it might be a quick and painless process. Doing the research, legwork, and formulating a concise document that will be adopted readily by elected officials is key to the success of this effort.
Oil, gas, none of these shall pass. Leave it in the ground, turn oil, gas, none of these shall pass. Leave it in the ground, turn oil, gas, none of these shall pass. Leave it in the ground, turn the trains around. Oil, gas, none of these shall pass. Leave it in the ground, turn the trains around. Oil, gas, turn the trains around.